Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. Welcome to the Legal Hackers podcast, season 3, the episode 3, season 1, episode 3. My name is Kanan Dhru, and I'm part of the operational board of Legal Hackers. And today we are absolutely thrilled to welcome an amazing guest to speak with us who has been an inspiration behind the Legal Hackers movement, actually, and who has been guiding us through our journey so much with passion and with inspiration. So, without further ado, I'm going to request Jonathan Askin, Professor Askin, to join us in this conversation. And then we will be beginning a fantastic conversation at the intersection of law and technology.
Hi, folks. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great.
Perfect. How are you doing, Professor Askin?
I'm well. I'm thrilled to be here. This is wonderful that you've launched this podcast for legal hackers.
There is so much happening in the world today around AI and law and so many different kind of technologies. So we believe this is the nice way for us to bring some of the movers and shakers at working in this space together and to feature them. And we are thrilled that you have accepted our invitation. And today's conversation is going to be focusing on how do you see the future from where we are now, and how do you think the space around law and technology is going to be shifting. But before we get into it, really, I want to quickly introduce many of your accomplishments that you have in this space. And not only that you are a professor at the Brooklyn Law School, but you are also the founder of the Brooklyn Law and Incubator Policy Clinic, where you are encouraging entrepreneurs and providing legal services. You are chairing the Brooklyn Law Center on Entrepreneurship, and you are the catalyst, actually, along with being the MIT visiting professor at the Media Lab. So, these are just some of the things that, you've been involved in and you've been part of. So, we would love to just get straight to how do you see the space of law and technology interacting today? And maybe we start from there.
Okay, well, that's a very big question. Let's dive in. I think the things we're figuring out right now is what will the role of the lawyer be in the digital society? How will that evolve? How will lawyers figure out how to embrace technology? How will lawyers figure out how to be more prescient and anticipate technological and societal changes that are going to come about, that are inevitable given the state of play with new technology, with artificial intelligence, with better and better digital transmission, with quantum computing on the horizon. That's sort of the secret that no one talks about just yet. I mean, quantum computing, as much as artificial intelligence, is going to be the piece that we've got to figure out how to get our hands around. But in any case, I think the big question, at least in the minds of lawyers, is what will our role be in the next 5, 10, 50 years as technology evolves? Will AI destroy the opportunities for lawyers? Will it create new opportunities for lawyers? Will lawyers become even more relevant and more essential to an ordered society as AI takes root? So those are the issues I'd like to dig into. How will AI affect the law and lawyering? How will other digital technologies affect the law and lawyering? At what point will lawyers be able to embrace it? We're really going through a generational shift right now. When I look at the old line law firms, I see a lot of old partners who are very reluctant to adopt these inevitable new technologies. Well, I suspect within the next 10, 20 years, as they die off, as they retire, we'll see the new crop of lawyers. Will they be ready to embrace the new technology? Will law schools train them effectively to embrace the new technology? Or will we be wallflowers at the technological revolution? I think it's incumbent upon law schools and senior lawyers to figure out how to train that new generation of lawyers to be prescient, to understand how technology is going to affect society. Because believe it or not, it's going to be the lawyers who are going to be tasked with making sure we have an ordered society in a world enabled by technology. How will laws evolve? What role will we play in evolving those laws?
Absolutely. And these are some of the pertinent questions in minds of lawyers world over. If I have to also ask the, fact that how do you see that? Where do you see lawyers being useful in the society, looking at the current scheme of things, do you think they'll be redundant, or do you think there'll be newer kind of jobs for them?
So a couple of thoughts on that. First of all, there are a lot of folks, legal critics, legal analysts, who think that the sky is falling. There will no longer be a need for lawyers in an AI-enabled world. I'm pretty well convinced that law will be the last service that is disrupted by artificial intelligence. And we've got to be committed to making sure there's always a role for that person trained in the subtle, nuanced art of legal reasoning in a world that is AI enabled. So how does that look? It must have been 15 years ago. I was a new teacher, and two MIT technologists, two MIT engineers came in to me and my students and said, we've built this platform that is going to revolutionize the law. We want you and your students to populate our platform called Docracy. We're going to democratize the legal process. We want you to populate our site with mutable contracts that anyone can go to and get. And I stopped for a second and said, well, those are the jobs that I did when I got out of law school, and that I suspect and hope my students would have when they got out of law school. So I thought these two engineers were going to destroy the livelihood of me and my students. And then I thought again, and I realized, no, it took me about 5 minutes to realize this. This is inevitable. And we had better be on the front end of these dramatic changes and make sure it's done right, and make sure there are empowered, significant roles for the next generation of lawyers. So 15 years ago, we thought just broad digital transmission on the open internet was going to destroy the jobs of first and second year law students. Well, it wasn't the case. What it did was something wonderful. What it did, when I came out of law school, I went to a big law firm. All of my law school friends went to big law firms, could have gone to big law firms. And what were we doing at these big law firms? We were trained in this sophisticated legal reasoning. And what were we doing? We were doing, document review, discovery, drafting rudimentary contracts, all things that now paralegal could do, an administrative assistant can do, and frankly, a computer can do. So I came into this world, I think, a little too early, into the legal profession a little too early. I would love to have come out of law school in a world where all of those mundane tasks, the first run at a contract, all of the painstaking work that goes into e-discovery, all document review issues. If there were some digital technology that could have done that when I came out of law school, I would have been able to immediately harness my legal training to do the more sophisticated tests that I hoped I would do and wasn't really allowed to do for at least 5+ years. So can we train this next generation of lawyers to leap into the profession, knowing how to use the tools at their disposal to be bona fide lawyers and not just additional low-level cogs in the legal machinery? That's what we've got to figure out. And this should be a great place for us to be. What is AI great at? What are computers great at? They are great at separating ones and zeros, black and white, yes and no. What are lawyers trained to do in law school? We are trained to play in that gray area. It's exactly the piece that the computer hates. How do we play in that gray area and bring sophisticated legal reasoning to a world of ones and zeros? So we've got to figure out how we can ultimately be partners with the AI. It's going to be wonderful for the most part if lawyers are there harnessing the AI, making sure it doesn't diverge in unethical matters, making sure it conforms with the laws and rules of the road that any society has established for itself. If we let AI run amok, AI is going to basically create this domino effect where we become less and less relevant. If we become more wholly reliant on the AI without playing a vital role in serving as the puppet masters of the AI, we're going to have a problematic world. Every revolution that I am aware of has required those with legal training to reorganize society after the dramatic shakeup. AI is causing probably the most dramatic shakeup we've seen. You can think of maybe 2 other times in global history when there's been this dramatic shakeup. The emergence of the first internet, to some extent, the first printing press. They may actually end up paling in comparison to what we're seeing with the advent of artificial intelligence. So who's going to write these new rules? Who's going to write the policies? We've got to make sure that there are prescient, savvy, tech-aware lawyers working for government, working for standards bodies, working for the bar committees to make sure that AI is harnessed in a way to maximize access to justice and to maximize the frictionless environment we are hoping more and more to bring to bear on the legal profession.
That is so interesting, and so many questions I have from what you just said. Interestingly, it is the engineers or tech people or behavioral scientists actually moving into the legal tech space, and we want to have more and more legal minded people to kind of come there. And as you rightly said, it is somewhere the lawyers training and how they are adapting to this technology, that is going to be a critical question, because right now we see plethora of legal AI tools, but the question remains as to how integrated they are into the entire services of the law firm and how people are using it. So I mean, am I understanding the situation correctly that it's the human problem more than the technology problem, because technology is already there within the legal system?
I think that's a fair statement. There is a human problem. There's the human learning curve. There's the folks who have already built these entrenched systems for legal process that have given them a good livelihood for decades and decades. There's now this dramatic shakeup, which is inevitable. I want to go back to the history of legal hackers, because to me, that's kind of, I think that foretells where we are right now. 2008, you remember the global economic collapse? That's about when I started teaching. And around 2010, it hit the law firms. So many of my law students were graduating without job opportunities. In fact, a lot of the law firms had given them offers and then revoked their offers. So I had all of these young lawyers who were scrambling to figure out what their role was going to be in this new economic situation, but being aware of the potentiality for digital tools. So what happened? My students who all of a sudden weren't getting those high-powered jobs at big law had to figure out what they were going to do with their law degrees. So what happened? Things like legal hackers happened. I had students who were coming out of law school in 2010, 2011, who were trying to figure out, can they leapfrog into the profession knowing technology better than the mainstream lawyers on Wall Street? So we did 2012, we did what I believe was like the first legal hackathon. We had gone to hackathons and we always felt like useless cogs. We would sit on the sideline while everyone else, the technologists, the engineers, the business people, the designers, would spend 48 hours tackling a problem. 46 hours into the hackathon, folks would present what the problem was. And that's when the lawyers would step in and the law students, we would tell everyone what they did wrong. Circa 2008, everything you did wrong. You didn't divide up your equity properly. You didn't figure out how to control your IP. You didn't figure out X, Y, and Z regulatory structure. You didn't figure out the global consequences. So many things that they had not figured out, the right corporate structure, from the routine to the sublime issues. So it wasn't good enough. Me and my students realized it wasn't good enough for us to be the naysayers at this revolution. It also wasn't good enough for us to slow roll everyone. We had to figure out how lawyers were going to be as lean, agile, pivotable as the startups and the folks that were revolutionizing life and society and business in the digital age. So we decided we're going to have a legal hackathon. And what is a legal hackathon for us? It was really lawyers serving as the smart project managers for the hackathon. Lawyers, to some extent, are smart generalists. We're supposed to be able to translate sophisticated issues to lay audiences. We're supposed to be able to deal with all different types of people from all different walks of life. Can we now take that role as smart generalists and figure out how to bring and organize the technologists with the business people, with the designers, with the marketers, with government, et cetera? And that, I think, is what legal hackers, in its best vision, can and should, and to some extent has become. It's folks within government, it's folks within the legal profession, it's folks within the policy arena, it's folks within the think tanks, it's folks within the tech firms who understand all these disparate pieces and can play that role in bringing it all together, making sure it evolves in a virtuous manner. Because without us, I think it will tend to evolve in a much less virtuous manner. A couple recently, I don't know if folks have heard of the physicist / philosopher Stephen Wolfram. He invented Mathematica, it must have been 30 years ago, 40 years ago now. But he comes from the world of physics and computer science. He's decided it's not enough that the computer scientists run the world of artificial intelligence and new technology. It is now essential that philosophers play a vital role in overseeing and shaping the role of technology and artificial intelligence. Well, I don't think that's good enough. I think you need folks specifically trained in the history of law, in law and society, to play that role in shaping AI. Not just the philosophers who may have grand abstract ideas, but those lawyers who know how to hit the ground running, but also know what lies before us.
That is so inspiring that you say that, because I was having similar conversation somewhere that, the computer scientists look at the micro and they kind of try to solve the problem, but the philosophers look at the larger picture and they are able to connect the dots. But what you say now, that it's the people who understand the history of law and legal philosophy, because I think the problems that or opportunities that AI creates in this space are so interconnected and so vast that the snowballing effects are also going to be tremendous. I mean, imagine disrupting the legal profession at this scale for the good and also not for the good, really. Because coming back to legal hackers, as I said, there are so many questions I want to ask you. But what legal hackers has done for us, who've been very happy recipients of the movement that you started, that we were prepared for what was to come. We were also kind of finding the community of people who were thinking alongside us, because I think we could see the trends around technology in the law some years ago already, and it has finally led to this movement. So my question to you is, how do you see legal hackers playing the role now and in the coming future, where things are changing so fast?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there are a couple great functions that legal hackers has been pursuing, and more power to you and to certainly to Jameson Dempsey, who has really brought to bear the global framework for legal hackers. To me, that is so crucial. What does digital technology do more than anything else? It obliterates geopolitical boundaries, and it imbues in every single individual the power of the largest communications and media empires of the 20th century. Anyone in any apartment in Amsterdam or Zaire or Singapore can now reach everyone in the world. Now, what's the problem? We still live in a world of nation states where we've got siloed rules that apply to the United States or to the Netherlands, or even maybe a little bit bigger to the European Commission. We've got to reconcile all that. AI does not know borders. The internet does not know borders. Anything can happen anywhere in the world, and it will affect every place else in the world. So what does that mean from a negative perspective? It means we all are essentially reduced to the behavior of the most nefarious actor out there. So if you've got a rogue state or a rogue individual that wants to use AI technology or any other newfangled, they set up a quantum computer system, they use cryptocurrency. There are so many different things that they can do without any understanding, without any acknowledgement that they've got to abide by any nation state laws, let alone any global rules or standards. So what does legal hackers do on a global level? To me, legal hackers on a global level is that communicate. It is a network. It's a system. It is essentially the internet of legal thinkers who have the ability to share ideas across borders, across regions, across nation states, and learn from each other and try to reconcile a lot of these disparate differences. So I do not see this a global network of lawyers separate and apart from the legal hackers community. There are 200 plus legal hackers chapters around the world, and tens of thousands of young, innovative, tech savvy lawyers. We more and more need to learn from one another. It used to be when we did early hackathons, we were completely stuck in our own little silo, our own little echo chamber. We would do a hack, say in Brooklyn or Cambridge or Stanford. Wherever we were doing it, it didn't have that domino effect, that ripple effect out into the world. We tried for many, many years to figure out how the hacks, the ideas that grow out of the thinking, the workshops, the hackathons within one legal hacker community can spread throughout the world, and so that every legal hackers community, every government, every society can learn and build upon the shoulders of the innovators who came before them. That's the piece that we've tried to do, and we're getting a little bit better and better at every year. We're still not perfect, but can we create that network where no one's reinventing the wheel, where we all learn from one another and we can create this global network where what worked, say, in the Netherlands, we can take and adopt and apply effectively in the United States. And folks can take it and apply it in Australia. Folks can take it and apply it, anywhere in Africa. Can we create that network? It doesn't exist. What do we have? We have a couple of treaty organizations that don't bear much weight and don't have much influence. Can we build systems? Can we build standards that will be relevant to global nation states, global corporations, global individuals? That's our task. It's a daunting task, but I don't know that there are many other communities that can do that.
Exactly. This is so inspiring, especially in the legal space. There's nothing else like this. And there is such a need. As you mentioned, the geographical boundaries play such an important role when creation of regulations and creation of policy is concerned. So in a way, we have to transcend that boundaries to create change, and technology provides us that platform to transcend. Having said that, that also brings me to a question we have in the operational board also, and we consider it as to how we balance the law and technology with the idea of access to justice. Because on one hand, of course, there is a concern of people, lawyers losing their job, but at the end of the day, there are so many access to justice challenges in the world that even with this speed, we'll always have more work to do. So, the global realities are also different. And how do you see that in terms of, customization versus universalization?
So you have completely underscored the big problem confronting us in this digital AI, privacy invasive world. And it underscores why humans trained in legal reasoning are essential to this process. Let's take AI in the justice process as an obvious example. Everyone has bemoaned the ability for AI to live in this black box and to provide disparate justice. The haves will get access to the AI technology and tool set. The have-nots will not have equal access, and justice will be skewed and balanced in favor, more and more in favor of the haves, those with the resources and the power. Now, that happens. That's inevitable if we let the market run rampant without any human, ethical, legal overlay on this. So this is where the lawyers and the judges are absolutely essential. And frankly, the legal technology innovators. Can we harness the AI and make sure that it's used as a tool to balance the playing field? You go to court, you go to litigation. You get sued by a corporation. The corporation has all the money and all the resources at its disposal. You got nothing. They've got the AI. They can dig into all the documents and write brilliant responses in 10 seconds. You've got barely enough money to hire a lawyer for an hour or two. You've got nothing, right? So I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that AI tools are free and open and available to those without the resources. Yeah. That levels the playing field. Then all of a sudden, it's just as easy for an individual to plow through 1 billion pages of documents as it is for a 400-person law firm to plow through 1 billion pages of documents. There was a TV show on a few years ago called Goliath with Billy Bob Thornton. He played a lone wolf attorney going up against a huge corporation and a huge firm backing it up. So what did the huge corporation do? They rolled up a truck of documents to his motel room, a truckload of documents to his motel room. He must have had millions of documents that he had to plow through. Couldn't do a damn thing with it. But if it was digitally delivered and he had AI, all of a sudden he becomes as equal as the corporation and as equal as that law firm.
Amazing playing field that technology can create. And I completely see that, legal hackers as a community has such an important role to play when advocating for openness and transparency in how technology is deployed for access to justice in public sector as well as in the private sector is concerned. And I think it would really create a better legally aware and people who are able to access that kind of a society where people are able to access law and justice in a much, much better way. But that you also mentioned about lawyers kind of becoming a gatekeeper or at least having the sense about ensuring that balance that is needed. How do you see the role of the regulation that is now coming up in different parts of the world? Now, EU has the EU AI Act, Brazil has also been thinking about a rights-based framework. China has an AI policy. US has an executive order. But please enlighten us. How do you see, this movement around more regulation of AI technology in specific?
All right. So again, the problem is if 99% of the nation states come up with rules surrounding AI, well, that's pretty good. Or is it terrible? Because all of a sudden there's this one rogue nation state that doesn't give a damn. Well, all of the brilliant AI technologists go to this one rogue nation state, or an island nation that some techno-utopian libertarians decide to create on an island or a boat somewhere. And how do we stop them? That's the scary piece of this puzzle. And I don't have a clean answer to that. But I do know it's going to take a global movement and an understanding that was it maybe a year ago, there were maybe 100 technologists who sent a letter to President Biden in the United States and said, you need to create some rules surrounding AI. Well, there were thousands of others who didn't sign that. There are thousands of others who don't give a damn about that, and they want to be first to the revolution. Hell, OpenAI. Do you remember what they did last year? So many people had such great hopes for OpenAI, for ChatGPT, and what they were trying to do, their commitment to an ethical AI-enabled world. They created a nonprofit. So their goal is not going to be profit motive. Well, a few years into it, they created a for-profit subsidiary, right? And there was still this hope and belief that this nonprofit parent entity would be that guaranteed ethical overlay that put societal best interests above corporate profits. Well, who won that battle? The corporate subsidiary won that battle. Everyone quit, and ultimately they to get the folks to come back to the for-profit entity, they fired a bunch of the board members, and the corporate interests basically took control of the nonprofit as well. So even a company that was built on such noble aspirations can be tainted by corporate greed. So lawyers need to participate in government. We need to write those rules. We need to understand the trajectory, and we need to put those tools in the hands of those without the power and the resources, the nonprofits who are bona fide nonprofits who are committed to supporting the public interest. So, take something as simple as predictive analytics. There are all these companies out there. My students and I have worked with a bunch of them who are doing, I think, very interesting things using AI to determine likely outcomes of litigation, likely return in litigation. But we've got to make sure that those predictive analytics AI tools are equally available to those without the resources. Now, what does that mean? Ultimately, if we get these predictive analytics tools, maybe we don't have as much litigation. Maybe we can actually settle with an understanding of this is what justice is likely going to look like. I don't know. If the predictive analytics tools are so skewed in favor of one class over another class, the class with the tools is going to be able to run roughshod over those who do not have.
Exactly right. So how do you see the ethical concerns are? Because there are the example that you gave, and also then there is an entire privacy and data protection angle. And it seems to me, to be honest, that whoever wants to play the ethical game will slow down in the end. It'll be those rough players internationally, or even in terms of whether there are any stakeholders in the game, a legal AI startup, or is that the price to pay for it? And is it fair?
Well, so one place where it's probably a relatively easy lift is in the judiciaries throughout the world. Every judiciary is beholden to its people. Every judiciary is at least built on the premise of justice. Now, some have different conceptions of justice. You might have, religious justice. You might have political justice. You might have ethical justice. But where we can see that, I would say most of the judiciaries throughout the world are committed to this concept of equal justice under law. Maybe I'm being a little Pollyannish about that, but I do believe that's the case. So as long as we've got a judiciary and a network of judicial systems around the world that are committed to balancing the scales of justice, that's a big step in the right direction. They will be committed, I think, to make sure that the tools are equally available to the have-nots as to the haves. They'll be equally committed to making sure that AI is not used in a biased, secretive manner. We had we had cases over the past decade or so in which AI was used in sentencing. In America, other countries did it as well. And the biggest problem, there were two problems. First of all, the AI was taking on the biases of those who put the inputs into the bias and the judicial opinions before it. So it was perpetuating and exacerbating those biases. Now, that's pretty easily remedied as long as you have humans who can recognize the biases and tweak the algorithm. Second problem emerges when these algorithms, these black boxes, are subject to IP protection, not available for inspection or auditing. It's essential that these black boxes that are allegedly there to administer fair justice are auditable, and we can determine how those how those sentencing decisions or legal conclusions were drawn. Those have to be transparent and auditable. Government the same way. Can we allow for citizen review of government action? Sweden pioneered this concept of the citizen ombudsman, citizen watchdog over the government. I think we need an AI ombudsman.
Yes.
In every country and maybe globally, someplace where humans will oversee and make sure that AI is always going to be used and tweaked for a broader conception of justice.
That is such an important one. It's a fantastic recommendation, I think. And that would solve a lot of problems that would otherwise arise from ethical questioning of how the systems are deployed and are used. In fact, judiciary in different parts of the world are already experimenting with using of generative, but then there are questions to be asked as to how fair is it that they're using some of these tools more than the others, or should they develop their own tools which are more expensive, and then who will have the bandwidth or the cost to cough up for that. But indeed, if there is a level playing field that will be created, it will be indeed through the judiciary. There is also another question. I think you were hinting towards the decisions or the predictive analysis that could be used around the judgment itself. Is it the AI-enabled judge that you have in mind when you say this?
So I believe in a collaboration between a human and an AI. I do not, no one born today, I think, legitimately thinks we can hand over judicial decision-making to an AI. I think the dystopian future of that concept is still anathema to any human I've met. Now, will that be the case in 50 years? Will the next generation be willing to relinquish control for the certitude of an AI justice? My hope is no. It's conceivable. But I do believe that we need a judiciary that is human-led, ethically overlaid, but can harness the advantages of AI. So to figure out where biases exist and to remedy it, not to perpetuate the biases, to figure out where you've got to. So the law, to some extent, needs to be a little bit flexible. But I think its flexibility should not come from an AI interpretation. Its flexibility has to come from a human ethical interpretation. Humans who understand the nature of the current society and the communities in which they live, that have the flexibility to understand where a rule needs to conform with a broader conception of justice. That's what the AI can't do, because the AI is 1-0, yes, no, black, white, here's the answer. How do you move it in a little bit of a direction that it favors some broader conception of justice? That's where a humane judge comes in.
Indeed, that spectrum of gray that humans are, but there are, of course, low-hanging fruits where, technology can be used, because decisions could be in 0 and 1, at least to kind of help the backlog of cases and these kind of things. And so that's first question. And the second is about, where do you think the private sector can come in this? Because they are also kind of looking at the data that is with the judicial system.
Yeah, so I missed, I think, a key component of your question, and that is the enormous backlog issue. Where can we resort to AI-administered decision-making? And I think you're right. back parking tickets, low-level misdemeanors, maybe adherence to a digital arbitration dispute mechanism process. Now, I think that's fine. I do think that those are areas in which relieving backlog, reducing costs, as long as it's administered fairly, I like the idea of AI administered justice in those contexts. I think what we need, though, is a clear and simple appeals process so that it is not AI run amok. But yes, for backlog purposes and simple low-level automation processes, I think that's a wonderful concept. Now, right. As far as corporate considerations, are you talking about corporate decision-making, corporate arbitration proceedings, removed from justice?
I'm looking at the startups here. They kind of want to come in either as non-profits, they want to come in as solving the problem. But does it have to be a corporation? Maybe. I mean, if you look at the VC funding and if you see ultimately who scales these endeavors. But yeah, we see a lot of young people wanting to change, and now they feel like they have the technology at the disposal to make world a better place. I don't know.
Oh, look, there is little doubt. I think we've seen this in the past 200 years that corporate solutions are much faster to come to bear with more flexibility than government solutions. So I think these test beds and these first proofs of concept and the first tools that will be built are being built and will continue to be built by these lean startups who see a problem and want to fix it. Oh, this is what legal hackathons are about, right? If the judiciary could come to us, in America, we've got the Office of Science and Tech Policy in the White House. We've got a couple of different cabinet. During the Obama years, this was all the rage. They would run these hackathons to try to solve government problems. We saw it less and a little bit less. I didn't see much of it in the Trump years. I'm hopeful that that will rise again, that we will see these government-run hackathons where they will bring in private actors. They will present a problem. We want to figure out how to resolve the backlog in these proceedings. What can we do? Create an ethical, automated solution for that. And we will start hacking it. And we'll come up with either prototypes. Government will find out which prototypes deserve more funding and support. But it will be those lean, innovative, agile startups with lawyers connected to them who will come up with these new systems that ultimately government will adopt.
Amazing. And I also want to talk to you about the legal education and the role it will have to play to create these lawyers and legal professionals to think about the problem in a more nuanced perspective. How do you think that has to change, in your opinion?
So I say this, lawyers by temperament are very conservative people. Now, we might believe in radical politics, but we become lawyers because we wanted, the certitude and we believed in rules and all that. Professors are equally conservative people. They wanted to go and exist in the ivory tower and know that they were going to be safe for the next 50 years for their entire career and have a home within academia. So professors are conservative socially, lawyers are conservative socially. Law professors are about the most conservative socially.
Yes, but then there are exceptions like you.
Well, so yeah, our goal in law school has been historically teach the law 500 years ago. When was the last time property law changed? When was the last time torts changed? When was the last time contract? We were teaching the law 500 years ago. Digital technology dramatically changed all that. We had to start looking and shaking up all of these traditional legal systems for that reason. Law schools in fits and starts, and it's interesting where I see it. I do not see it, and I'm American, so I'm going to be a little bit biased to America. I don't see it. I did not see it, 15 years ago happening at Harvard and Yale, our preeminent law schools. Where did I see it happening? I saw it happening at Suffolk Law School. I saw it happening at University of Missouri, Kansas City. Hell, to be candid, I saw it happening at Brooklyn Law School.
Right.
We had to be more aggressive. We had to be scrappier, and therefore we were picking up the pieces that the Ivy League schools were not picking up. Now, 15 years later, it's happening everywhere. So we're starting to see it happen, but it's still, if you look online, you can see a list of all the law schools that are starting to explore AI, starting to provide coding for lawyers, starting to provide, digital currency classes, all that stuff. I find that all of my law students who come out with some knowledge in one of these technical areas have their career set. They control their destiny. You know, you remember when blockchain was all the rage? For
Yes.
better or worse, it's ebbed and flowed. But 10 years ago, when it was just starting to get hot, all of my law students who spent a few weeks learning the rudiments of blockchain and cryptocurrency graduated and now are the preeminent legal authorities on blockchain and crypto. It didn't take much for them to leapfrog into the profession. You're going to see it in AI. The law schools that are teaching how to incorporate AI into legal practice, the law schools that are teaching no-code automation tools for lawyers, those law students are graduating and will revolutionize the legal profession and access to justice. No question about that.
Absolutely. At the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned quantum technology also. So how do you, because with quantum things will be unprecedented, and are you, I mean, how do you think, are we prepared for this, or what could the lawyers now do to prevent, or at least, I don't know, not, you can't prevent anything, but at least be better prepared for.
Yeah. So, and this reminds me of, you remember when Uber and Airbnb first came to your city? We weren't prepared. I mean, that was so rudimentary. That was so obvious. And we knew it was going to shake up urban life, but we weren't ready for it. That is so pedestrian compared to what we're going to see when AI fully takes root, when quantum computing takes root, and when AI and quantum computing join hands and change everything.
Yes.
So, quantum computing, it's not a phrase we're using much this year. Until AI came up, we threw out the terms AI, we threw out the term quantum computing. But now that AI has really taken root, we've sort of put quantum computing on a back burner. But we are going to have quantum computers very soon. And when we have them and when we incorporate AI into it, there is no stopping what's going to happen. Well, we've got to figure out how there'll be some stopping. It's going to be this ridiculous battle of, we use the term one-upsmanship. Will the good actors in quantum computing be able to use quantum computing for the public good? Will the bad actors be able to use quantum computing for the public bad? I'd like to think that most government actors who have the ability to play a role in quantum computing are, for the most part, good actors. Am I naive? Maybe. It will be a while longer before the bad actors get their hands on quantum computing and can incorporate AI into it, but it's probably going to happen. How do we put constraints on that? What is quantum computing makes encryption irrelevant. Think about that from a lawyer's perspective. We were already concerned about data surveillance, right? All of our surveillance out there in the open world. Anyone can replicate anyone's identity pretty easily. We've got, the only way it guards against it are serious encryption. Well, what may take 1,000 years for a regular computer to break encryption on, quantum computer is going to do in a matter of seconds.
Right.
That's the piece we've got to figure out and be prepared for. And who's going to figure that out? It's going to be lawyers who understand quantum physics, quantum computing. That's it. It's not going to be the engineers who want it to happen. It's not going to be the governments who don't know a damn thing about it and are taken by surprise when it does happen.
Yeah, and it's very scary that you say it, and it's very true. Quantum with AI will just be so intelligent that humans individually won't be able to compete, and we will have to come up with newer business models, newer governance structures, or newer kind of regulations and set of policies. And you're right. I mean, we're not talking much about it, but the innovations in the engineering and the physics space is already going on. And again, that is becoming quite geopolitical, but we really hope that it's the good players and the right intentions and ethics. I think that survives and that thrives, and hopefully that could lead to a utopia and everybody kind of having a better lifestyle. But otherwise,
I want to tell you about something that my students and I have tried to do for 15 years now. And now I think it's possible. We wanted to create anticipatory lawyers, a system in which lawyers could figure out what is likely going to come on the radar and how we and society can make sure it's released in the most efficacious manner.
exciting.
So we tried to create something called the what if generator. So for us, it was a matter of, what if we wrote a law this way? How did the dominoes fall? How did the strands of time play out such that the law can be written in the most virtuous manner to ripple into the future. The what if generator. We were going to apply it to law, regulations. You write a regulation this way. What good or bad things will happen? How do you tweak it so that you can more likely get good things to happen? Well, we didn't really have access to fast computers, and we certainly didn't have access to AI predictive engines. Now with AI predictive engines, all of a sudden this what if generator becomes possible. You can create a simulated universe. You can create an infinite number of simulated universes and tweak things ever so slightly and see how things are likely probabilistically going to play out. That would be an amazing thing if lawyers got behind the concept of a probabilistic what if generator.
That it would be super fascinating. And now, as you're saying, with the current technology, it should be possible to do, and that would help us so much to anticipate and prepare ourselves better for the times to come. But maybe some of the last questions are, because I know that we are already getting towards the clock, and we have some amazing people from special legal hackers chapter joining us. But if I may, and they will be talking about the next summit that is going to take place. But if I may ask you, I don't know, one of the last questions here, Jonathan. It's been such a fantastic conversation. I wish I could go on, but what would be your advice to, a young lawyer or a law student who's just about to graduate?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what should they be doing at this stage of their career?
So let me tell you a couple things, and these are based on historical experiences. One is, you can take cryptocurrency as an example. When cryptocurrency is hot, that's when everyone jumps in. That's when the lawyers jump in. When there are problems and cryptocurrency isn't hot, that's when everyone jumps out, including the lawyers. I think lawyers have to learn how to zig when the world zags, because it's all cyclical. And when everyone else is going in this direction, how do you figure out your path that goes in the other direction and anticipates how that downtime is going to reemerge? So if 5 years ago or 2 years ago, when crypto tanked, if a bunch of lawyers saw that as an opportunity and not a reason to run scared, I think now that cryptocurrency is back on the rise, these lawyers would be ready to embrace it and embrace, crypto 2.0, crypto 3, whatever it is, the next iteration, the next wave, because they were there on the front end. So I think that's one huge piece of the puzzle. How do you figure out where society is going and how do you play that role? Now, you need to get the tools. And that means learning. You don't necessarily need to learn how to code, but you need to learn the language of the coder. You need to communicate with them. You need to be able to figure out where society is going. Now, when I think about, frankly, the best lawyers I know, they weren't the lawyers that did best on the property exam or the Civ Pro exam or the con law exam. You know who they were? They were the lawyers who knew how to execute judgment. They knew how to tap judgment. Now, judgment is a legal term, but how the hell do you teach? How do you learn judgment? That's what the AI is not going to be able to do. Good judgment. And I wish we could figure out a class that actually just dealt with judgment. How do you incorporate instincts and sensory knowledge and anticipatory knowledge of technology advances and turn that into meaningful judgment? That's what I would teach. I would teach a class basically on judgment. It would be a workshops, class, projects. It would be constant what if scenarios. What if something happens? How do we deal with it? That requires judgment.
There is one more question from that that I would like to ask you. What about newer justice challenges or newer legal issues that will be emerging? I mean, do you see a lot of that happening because of the technology's use?
I'm sorry, do I see what?
The newer kind of legal challenges or newer kind of justice issues that will come into play because of the use of technology or because of the haves and the have-nots divide increasing. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. America and Europe are beset with immigration crises right now. These are global issues. These are not issues that can be resolved in a vacuum. We need global lawyers. We need lawyers who understand global connections and know lawyers across the globe. That is the piece that's been missing. Governments and law firms and lawyers are all living within their own silos, their own nation states. So for me, it really does come down to how do we create global understanding, global knowledge. And I would love to see, it's all well and good that we have our own legal hackathons. Can we have more and more global legal hackathons where we're all learning from one another. That's the missing piece. That's the crucial piece. And that is the piece that, you and Laura, I see Laura is going to be on here, and the rest of Legal Hackers Board need to get your head around. This global summit is terrific. Can we turn it into an ongoing, reiterative global experience?
Fantastic. Indeed, it's the entire operational board and Jameson Dempsey and you as, the chief inspiration person that has created the Legal Hackers movement. And that brings a perfect segue to me bringing Bernardo, Mariana, and Laura to talk about the upcoming summit that is happening in Costa Rica. And before I do that, I wanted to thank you, Professor Askin. It has been amazing to have this conversation. This could have gone on. I've learned a lot, and I hope the listeners have also enjoyed this conversation. We hope to bring you back if you have the time, because there is so much to unpack from all of the work that you are doing and inspiring people like us around the world. So thank you once again for your time. It has been wonderful. So grateful.
Thank you. I'm so happy you did this.
Excellent. Perfect. So I think time is now to bring Bernardo, Mariana, and Laura from the operational board to talk about the upcoming summit that is taking place this year.
Thank you so much, Jonathan and Canon, for this fascinating conversation. And you're very true, Canon. Jonathan is such an inspiration for all of us in Legal Hackers. I'm just here to introduce very quickly part of the Costa Rica Legal Hackers team who are organizing a wonderful summit, which will take place in December. Bernardo and Mariana are here. So hello, Bernardo, Mariana, thanks for joining. And the floor is yours so that you can tell us a bit more and tell everyone around the world why they should come and travel all the way to San Jose to join the summit. As the organizer of the past summit, which took place in Madrid, I know it's a lot of work, so huge thank you for that. But I also know that it's really worth it. So thanks for your effort, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for that introduction, Laura. Hi, everyone. I'm Mariana, a member of Legal Hackers Costa Rica and the founder of Babalum. As Laura and the rest of the team said, we are absolutely thrilled to announce that Costa Rica has been selected in some way as a host for the Legal Hackers Global Summit 2024. This event will feature talks, workshops, and dynamic sessions covering a wide range of legal topics related to the tech industry, artificial intelligence, entrepreneurship, personal branding, and so much more. And the great news, you can attend either in person or virtually. We will have amazing speakers from government, academia, and the business sector, with participants from Colombia, Mexico, Peru, and other countries. This is going to be an incredibly interesting event, and we invite you to mark your calendars for Thursday the 5th and Friday the 6th of December from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Costa Rican Bar Association. Now, we will share the exact location and details very soon, so make sure to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook to keep up to date with the details. And to all the other Legal Hackers chapters worldwide, please reach out. We want to hear from you, and we want you to help us share the event on your networks to help spread the word. So that would be it. Thank you so much.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Mariana. It sounds like it's going to be a fantastic event, and can't wait for all the legal hackers around the world to come together and have these conversations that Jonathan Askin inspired us to talk about, and to continue this global lawyer movement at the intersection of law and technology. So this is fantastic that you are so kind to host this year's summit, and we can't wait to hear more. So with that, this podcast comes to an end. I hope everybody has enjoyed the conversation, and please follow us on our social media channels, and there'll be more information coming your way through the newsletter and through us kind of spreading the word about upcoming events. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you on the other side. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.